AI isn't magically going to make you profitable, and trying to vibe code your own trading bot is one of the fastest ways for you to lose money. So instead of trying to make AI trade for you, you should be using it to refine your own trading process. And that's what I'm going to show you in this video, where I go over my own AI workflow and how it plays into my trading system. When I was building this AI workflow, all the hard work was done even years prior, when I was building my own version of these trade sheets on paper and eventually put them onto a Word doc. So what you can see in front of you is the first iteration of one of my market outlook sheets, where I'm going over, the context, the key levels, oscillators, TPO and composites, and I also have one for my trade plan. So this is how it initially started, but you can do it yourself with Claude. So starting off, all I'm going to say is create a trading process sheet that covers each aspect of the trade's lifecycle. So that's from the outlook to the planning, execution, and then closure. So this will give us one iteration of these trade sheets. And then I'm going to show you a very simple way to get a final product that would look something like this, which is completely customizable and that you can use for every single one of your trades to make you better. So what we're going to do is just paste this into Claude and wait to see what it does. I highly recommend building these trade process sheets in Fable 5, as the outcome was generally a lot better when I was comparing it to the previous models. So this is what Fable was able to cook up by simply putting like 2 lines of prompts. Now I see so many prompts that are out there where it's like pretty much like a whole page of like, you are a professional website designer or process or a hedge fund trader, whatever. I'm like, you don't really need that shit. I'd rather just put in a couple lines and see that I can get a pretty good outcome. Because I think what's more important is how I'm actually structuring and the knowledge that I have when building these sheets of like, okay, what should be on there at what step? That's much more important than just making a prompt look pretty. So what you can see is this is broken down into the trade life cycles, where you have the outlook, then the trade planning, the execution, and then the closure. So starting off, we have the outlook. For me, I use the weekly 1225 EMAs to identify my high time frame context. Then it's also going over the verdicts. Are we in a range bound market? What kind of playbooks do I want to use? What should I not be trading if we're in those environments? And the same thing with the planning. But what you'll notice is this isn't really interactive. I can't fill this in every day or for even every trade. Like, it's covering a lot of the points that are very important, but it's just not satisfying what I actually need as a trader. And that is where having the actual architecture and knowing what should be inside your trade process sheets plays a very key role. So all I'm going to do is go back to my own written documents and take a screenshot. Then we paste those screenshots into Claude. As you can see, pasted the first one, the second, and then I'm simply going to write, make these trading sheets interactive so that I can fit them into my trading process. Then we click send. If you enjoyed the video so far, please don't forget to like and subscribe to show some support. Now this already looks a lot better. So we can see that we have the market outlook and the trade plan at the top. We can input the week's number, whatever asset we're trading, and the date. So the market outlook is something that I fill in at the start of every week, not necessarily every day, because, as a positional and sort of swing trader, I'm not taking, trades every day. It's usually just like once or maybe twice a week if we have a lot of volatility. So I only need to understand what the high time frame context is. What are those key levels that I should look for the week, as opposed to like intraday. So kind of going over the context summary. So weekly bias, daily bias, are the trades going to be pro trend or counter trend? So generally I like to focus on playing pro trend. So if I can identify the context of like, okay, we're in an uptrend, then I'm looking for longs. I'm not looking for shorts. I also have just setup 1 and 2 on radar. So whatever are the first 2 or closest setups to me are the ones I'm really going to focus on. Then mapping key levels like supply and demand, swing highs, swing lows, the daily, weekly EMAs, right, for context. So for oscillators, I use the stochastic RSI and the RSI. So stochastic for me is used in my range trading system to help increase the win rate. And then the RSI that's also used in either my range extreme, but mostly my mean reversions to identify these bearish or bullish divergences. And lastly, we just have TPOs and composites. So this is a tool that I use to identify inefficiencies that you cannot see on a chart. So far, these sheets don't look too bad. And I think for just showing you how simple it is, we can just take a picture, you can just write a couple lines, and you can cook up something like this with Fable. I'd say it's pretty good. But the sheets that I shared at the beginning, those to me were like much more in depth because I spent a lot more time trying to make it much more interactive for the user. This was actually the end product that I shared and that I will be giving away for free in the description below. So what you'll notice is, there are a couple more bars at the top. So I'm only covering in this video 2 of the 5 parts that play a key role in my workflow. So if you want to see a video going over the execution, the closure, and even my focus list, then let me know in the comments below and I'll do that as one of my next videos. Finishing off with the trade plan, I believe that this is one of the most important because if you're not writing down your trade plan before you take it, then to me, you are just trading off of emotion. I always know what setup I'm going to take at least a couple days or a week in advance. I can tell like, all right, this is a key level. This is where I want to trade from. And then my job as a trader is to wait and not fuck up in the period where I'm waiting for my setup for then price to trade into those key levels, right? That's one of the hardest parts is, having the discipline to stay on your hand. So you should always be writing your trade plan beforehand. So the things that you should be including in this trade plan are what is the strategy type that you're going to trade, and also your entry zones, stop zones, and FTAs. So FTAs is your first trouble area, which is like the first area of resistance or support when you're entering the trade. But if you look at the entry zones and the stop zones, you'll see that I wrote why. And that's because when you're simply saying like, okay, well, I'm going to enter here and I'm just going to put my stop at this level, it's very generic. And in trading, it needs to be repetitive. Everything you do, you need to be able to explain to yourself, why am I doing this? Because if you have a consistent process of like, we're trading into a demand zone, so I'm going to put my stop loss below. It's like, why am I doing that? Because that is part of my execution playbook where whenever I'm taking a mean reversion trade into a zone of demand, I'm putting my stop loss below. So being able to explain the why kind of triggers your mind to think a lot more. And then you can start writing down these things as part of your process and eventually a playbook. Then finishing off, you have the trade confluences and reasons not to take the trade. So for the trade confluences, you're kind of writing everything that is lining up with that trade. So if I use the daily stochastic and the RSI, well, if price is trading into a range high, we have the daily stock at the high, we have a bearish divergence, we also have the 12-hour stock at the high, we have lots of absorption on the footprint. I'm going to write down kind of all of these things that I want to see, but also I'm just going to write the things that are already there. Like there's a monthly open, the daily stock is at the highs. So I can write these things as confluences so that when I'm taking the trade, I'm already have a good understanding of like, could this be an A star setup or is this just going to be a beer chair setup? Because I'm going to be willing to risk more on that A chair setup. And then lastly, reasons not to take the trade. Now, very rarely have I filled in those reasons not to take the trade and I haven't taken the trade, but it just kind of helps for me to trigger my mind to think of like, okay, what is the counter argument to this position? So sometimes you might find something kind of very interesting. You're like, okay, well, actually, I've just realized that this is going against a high time frame trend, so I shouldn't be taking it. But most of the time, it'll just be small things like maybe that there's no divergence or maybe there's no stochastic, but it's nothing that should take away from you taking the trade. And there you have it. That is an insight into my AI workflow. As always, I will be sharing these sheets in the description below. And if you want to see a video on the rest of the sheets, let me know in the comments. If you found value and you've enjoyed watching this video, then please like and subscribe to show some support, and I'll catch you in the next one.